Chiefs Kingdom, welcome back to another episode of All Chiefed Up. We're back with another podcast for that ass. And today, Steve, we're talking about Charles Omenihu possibly on the cut list. Let's talk about it.
Before we get the show started, appreciate you guys being here. Make sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button to help us grow this channel. Mike, Charles Omenihu on the cut line? I don't know about it.
I don't either, man. I don't like it, I think Charles Omenihu, let's be honest, he missed 6 games to start. Then he went all the way through the season and played very, very well. He played above and beyond what Brett Veach signed him for on that 2-year deal. And then he made a big play against Lamar Jackson in the playoffs. Helped us beat the Ravens. And then he hurts himself. Sucks that he had to miss the Super Bowl. But this is what sparked the entire thing. Charles Omenihu, not Chomenihu, but Charles Omenihu says, I didn't have a full season and put up numbers. Does that go unnoticed? ? Might have to do it again to get what I want at the end. He posted this at 6 o'clock on February 17th, Steve, and it came out of nowhere. And everybody's like, what is he referring to? So then I started digging in and I found this article here. U Stadium's co-founder Nick Spano named the recent acquisition as a potential cap casualty on February 14th. So just a few days ago, Steve, Nick Spano comes out and says the Chiefs may cut Omenihu. So maybe this is what he was referring to. I don't know. But he says, noting that KC can save $7.22 million by trading or releasing Omenihu this spring. And unfortunately, the pass rusher's torn ACL in the AFC Championship game makes his early departure an actual possibility. He then goes on to say, now, is it more likely the Chiefs reach out to the productive 26-year-old to discuss a pay cut or a lucrative extension? Perhaps, but a cap hit of just under $11 million is a steep price to pay for a player that has a slim chance of returning in time for Week 1. So, Steve, what do you think? Is it more obvious that Brett Veach may not do nothing? May they cut Omenihu, or do you think they'll go the restructure route?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. I think Charles Omenihu was a very good weapon to have. After week 6, after he served his suspension, he made his presence known on the football field. I think Charles Omenihu made a lot of good plays throughout the season.
Right.
It was great to have that extra weapon on the defensive line. As far as what they're going to do with this contract, Mike, I don't have any idea. But I do know that if this is getting brought up, it's something that's probably getting brought up behind the scenes as well. I'm sure Brett Veach and them will talk about each and every player that could come or go, because they have a lot going on this offseason. But I think Charles Omenihu did enough with his opportunities to show that he's very effective and is an asset to the Chiefs. So I think they'll try to figure out a way to get him to stay here. Just over what he was able to do in the small amount of time he played this season, I think they'll give him a shot to stick around, but it might come at the cost of a restructure for him.
Look, this is a win now business. This is a what have you done for me lately? And Omenihu did a lot this season. He did. But he started his time in KC off on a bad foot by missing 6 games. By the way, Brett Veach knew that was going to happen. He may not have known 6 games, but they knew there was some legal trouble. We pointed this out last year, and we were like, why did they give him so much money knowing he's going to get suspended here? Maybe it wasn't, maybe it was a nothing burger, kind of like the Justin Ross situation. But it panned out that there was something there. He did not even appeal the 6-game suspension. He took it. He sit 6 games. But when he come back, he was pretty much a force. He was a good defensive end for us. He set the edge. He got after the quarterback. I want to say off the top of my head, 5-6 sacks. I should have had those stats right in front of me, but I do not. It's okay. But I want to bring this up. This is his contract situation. So if you see here, it says that Charles Omenihu was signed to 2 years, $16 million, right? So $7.5 million signing bonus. He was guaranteed $8.6 million at the signing. So he's only here for 2023 and 2024. And you see that there is a potential out in 2024. It would make it a 1 year, $8.2 million with a $3.75 million dead cap hit. So the dead cap is 3.7 if they cut Omenihu. If they let him stay and they don't restructure this, it's a 10.97, which is basically an 11 million. So it's like, if you cut him, you're possibly saving what, $7.5, $8 million that could possibly go to someone else. It may possibly not be anything. Like maybe you just restructure him. I feel like I'm on the restructure train because he's only 26 years old.
Right. Well, I don't even know why it would be brought up to cut him, to be quite honest. I feel like that defensive tackle is a position that the Chiefs are going to have to address anyway. You got Derek Nottie, who's on his way out, and of course they're not the same type of player, but that's still a defensive lineman there that we're talking about. So why are you going to make the hole even bigger, especially with a guy that showed that he could be a force on the defensive line this year? Also, he fits into Spag's scheme. He can kick outside. He can play inside. He's very athletic. He's effective from all the positions. And why would you go out and try to bring in a guy to learn the system that Charles Omenihu already knows and flourished in? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'm thinking, if anything, they might try to get him to restructure just to free up a little bit of money, because there's a lot of stuff going on in the offseason, Mike. We talked about this. But I just don't see them letting him go anywhere. I don't think cutting him, that doesn't seem like an option to me. That seems kind of silly.
Well, the elephant in the room is the injury. Because an ACL injury that late in the season, when could he feasibly return? Is he going to miss another 6 games to start the season? Could it go out to 10 games? Could it be 12 games? What do you do? Like, they used to be almost year injuries, but we are seeing people recover from ACLs a lot quicker. But feasibly, what if he couldn't be back until, not even a playoff run? We'll just say November. Is that enough to pay him all that? Or would you just cut him and be like, sorry, we'll go to the free agency market and look around. We drafted Felix last year. Like, we're not super deep at the defensive end position, but we do have options. So I'm just saying, I think the injury is why Nick, whatever his name is, brought this up. I think that's the big thing. So does the injury not scare you at all?
Not really. I think historically speaking, if you look just still on the defensive line there, Tershawn Wharton, he's been through 2 knee injuries, and the Chiefs have stuck beside him. I understand he's at a smaller pay scale, I believe. But at the same time, I just feel like Charles Omenihu, he's a great defensive end, and like I said, he can kick inside. And Spags does it all the time. And I just think the versatility and the fact that he proved himself this year, Mike, I don't think this is like a big thing. Like, if Brett Veach got really desperate to free up some cap space, I could see this being talked about a little bit possibly. But I just think that Brett Veach and his staff are like super prepared for what's getting ready to come up. Everyone knows how difficult of an offseason this could be for them, with a lot of different guys to re-sign or cut or whatever they're going to do. I just feel like it would be creating an extra problem that doesn't necessarily need to be there.
If you cut them and save your 7.5, right? If you cut them and save your 7.5, this is the players that are out here on the 2024 free agency market that plays defensive end. You have Leonard Williams right off the bat. He's getting ready to turn 30. He's going to win a lot of money. Daniil Hunter is 29. He plays outside linebacker, but he can kick down, play the edge, obviously. You have Carl Lawson, Randy Gregory, Marcus Davenport. Now, we were rumored to be in a Marcus Davenport, race last season, which panned out not the way anybody thought. He ended up going to Minnesota, I believe. But Jerome Baker, Romeo Okwara, Zadarius Smith, Yannick Ngakoue, Chase Young. Would the Chiefs be better suited to take that 7.5 and maybe go after one of them? You've also got Josh Allen from the Jaguars that's coming out, 27. He's going to hit the free agency market, Steve. He can play that edge rusher. I don't know what his market value is. Let me bring that up really quick. We'll see what the market value is here for Josh Allen. They're saying $24 million, so they're estimating he's going to get 5 years at $120 million. Presumably, the Chiefs are not going to pay that much.
Right. It's a different tier of player. I'm not trying to knock Charles Omenihu, but he's not Josh Allen. Like, he's not in that stratosphere.
So do you think the Chiefs even care to go after a player of that caliber, or do you just sit with an injured Omenihu, hope he comes back healthy, and eat the $11 million cap hit? Because that's a lot.
I think when you look at how dominant our defense was this last season, I see no reason going forward that we would spend a big bunch of money on a defender. I just don't see it. I think
besides Chris Jones.
Exactly. That's the main thing. That's what I was going to get to. You have Chris Jones to worry about. You can't go out looking for a Josh Allen or anyone like that because you just can't afford it. You have to lock Chris Jones in, keep the pieces around him, replenish the defense with the draft like we have been doing for the last 2 years. Brett Veach has been knocking it out of the park in the draft on defense, Mike. This whole defense we've basically built through the draft, and they were immaculate last season. I think they're going to be very good going forward. We got Spags on the extension. We're going to get most of those young guys back because they're all on rookie contracts. I just think that you don't really, mess with the defense that much this offseason. I think if you do anything, you're looking at re-signing Drew Tranquil maybe. I don't know. Like I said, I only see them messing with Charles Omenihu if they need to free up some money and they want to restructure. I don't see them cutting him. I just don't.
Look, I like the way George Karlaftis has come on and played. I do know Chris Jones needs to be a priority. I think you have to get Mike Pennell in here next year. I think he's earned himself onto this team to play for the majority of, that's going to help the Derek Nottie when Derek Nottie walks. But you've got a few things you have to fill. I've mentioned Felix Anudike-Uzama out there on the edge as well. And we drafted BJ Thompson. You have Truman Jones on the squad. You got Malik Herring, who is going to be a free agent here. But does it not tempt you one bit to be able to find a way to bring in a Josh Allen or a Brian Burns, who's also going to be a free agent? I do know they garner a lot of money. But, dude, if you could put one of them on a line with George Karlaftis and our defense the way it is now and put even more of a pass rush on it, that's very tempting to do. I would almost consider that well over a wide receiver, which by the way, is not going to even be close to the money.
I don't. I'm on the opposite side of that fence. I think you have a glaring problem that you've had all season long. You skated by the skin of your
but
teeth.
Brett Veach is not going to
Bowl.
spend big money on a wide receiver. Like,
Absolutely
I even think
not.
T. Higgins is out of the ballpark there.
Yeah, I do too. But I think that they can spend about $15 million on a receiver easily. And I think that's what they're going to have to do, that $50 million range. I mean, there's a lot of different guys we can talk about, and I'm sure we'll have a podcast talking about it, Mike. But we've talked about Calvin Ridley before, Marquise Brown. They're talking about cutting Tyler Lockett possibly in Seattle. Those are all guys that fall into that range. And that's MVS himself is going to be a $50 million cap hit if they don't cut him or restructure him.
Right.
There's no reason that they can't focus on a weapon for Patrick Mahomes. Why worry about the defense that was number 2 in the league last year? Keep it as much together as you possibly can. Replenish it. I think Spags has that on lock. I wouldn't freak out and be paying a bunch of money for a defender. I just wouldn't.
Okay, that's a valid point, valid stance, and I agree. It's just one thing that we were talking about. You remember last year,
Right.
the year before, it was go get the pass rusher, go get Brian Burns. That was the huge talking point.
Well,
they're all here now.
Rightfully so, because at the time I feel like that was a problem. But the way George Karlaftis has been since he got drafted, and he's getting better and better with time. We've seen it this year. He was a freaking beast.
So let's say you lose Mike Dan in free agency. Okay, let's say Karlaftis is healthy. Okay, so he stays healthy on one side. But let's say we lose Mike Dan in free agency. Let's say Charles Omenihu misses 3 months of the season for the ACL. And let's say Felix might be your only option because Malik Herring goes somewhere else. Maybe BJ Thompson hasn't panned out yet. Truman Jones coming out of an Ivy League. He's not going to pan out just so much. Are you fine with Felix being on that side as the main guy in year 2, knowing he had very limited snaps this season?
Well, we have this guy that we have to keep there named Chris Jones. It's a great equalizer for those guys because he makes everyone's job around him easier on that defensive line. If you keep Chris Jones in a Kansas City Chiefs jersey, it doesn't matter that much who you have on the edges. If they're good, George Karlaftis is going to eat with Chris Jones beside him. And I think that Felix could get to that point. I think they could draft to replenish it. I would hate to lose Mike Dan and Malik Herring. I feel like those are both solid freaking players this year that went under the radar. They both did a lot of great things this year, and that would be a big loss. But I think you can replenish them via the draft or practice squad, whatever you need to do. You got some guys in place. I think you might have to go that route, man. I can't fathom spending a lot of money on a defender, no matter which way you twist it, after the way this last season went.
Right. So wrapping this up, we think that Omenihu getting rid of him, probably not a possibility. A restructure is more of a possibility, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, would I be like super surprised if they cut Charles Omenihu? No, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, they cut Charles Omenihu. That's crazy. Never saw that coming. I wouldn't be like that. But I just don't see the point, personally. Like, I feel like there's other places to look. And I feel like our defense, like I said, they were so good this year. I think you keep it as close to the same as you can and add to it if you need to via the draft or whatever you have to do to replenish it.
Right. Okay. Well said, Steve. That's going to wrap it up. You guys let us know in the comments what you think. Would you like to see Omenihu here? Would you like to see them maybe go get a bigger pass rusher? Would you like to see them restructure Omenihu? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for subscribing, hitting that bell. Go Chiefs.
was a sight for my soul.